It's great to be joined by Jim Pfaff, president of the Conservative Caucus, a conservative organization that knows a thing or two about not just raising the conservative movement, but maintaining that movement. Jim, thanks for joining us.
I'm glad to be with you, Tony.
So I really just got to dive right into the details on this one. I'm concerned that while the Republican Party has won a large part in this election and heading in a week from now, and that the conservative movement is striding forward to get some policy affected in the next couple of weeks and months, hopefully, I'm concerned that we're still not in a position to actually raise up a new generation of conservatives out of Generation Z and I Alpha behind them. We're in a position, I don't know if we're doing anything about it. Do you get that vibe?
Well, I think there's a lot of inspiration out. I think even in Gen Z communities, there were many people inspired by Donald Trump and the fact that he was, he took on the media and lawfare and all these things at what is very clearly serious risk to his freedoms and liberties and even his fortune. And he hung in there and won. So that's inspiration to anyone if anyone's willing to tell that story. So on that basis, I think that's true. But what it really is necessary is to organize out what happens from here. And by the way, don't look to Republican politicians to make that happen, or at least most of them. I mean, one of the big things that's got to change is the group of people we send to Washington, D.C. and the group of people that show up in most state legislatures. It's a real challenge. It's a long-term one. But I think that they're a base to work from if we do the right things after this.
So let's imagine, you have the individual, right? Let's say he's a 19-year-old guy. He was inspired by Donald Trump, thinks he's great, saw him on Joe Rogan, started following him, went out and voted for him election day, right? And now, what is he going to do? So my question is, how do we actually get that guy to get into the conservative movement on kind of a more, I want to say voted, but kind of take the conservative movement more seriously for him, his family?
Well, a lot of these people have been identified by someone somewhere, whether it's a campaign. You can do a lot of data research and find out what's going on here. You can also, by the way, go into voter rolls. That data is freely available. It's all public information, and birth dates are on there. So you can find that group of people, see if they registered Republican, see if that was their first time to vote, and then you go make contact with them. I mean, it's kind of the hard work of retail politics that makes a difference in the long run. What I have always done, campaigns that I've run through all the 3 decades that I've been doing this, is to work with this data and go out and make contact in some way, send an automated call poll out, compare it to the consumer data. And there are ways that you can figure out who's who here, and then you begin making contact of some sort. It costs a little bit of money, costs a little bit of effort, but this is a place to start. The second thing is to find these people on social media and keep putting out the right information, figure out how they interact with you, and work from there. So there are quite a few means, more than what I'm discussing here,
right,
where you can make that direct contact and work from there.
So we make the direct contact. This is really the meat of the conversation where I need your expertise, because I feel, at least at this point, this is where we kind of fall apart. So we make the contact, we got the person, hey, they came out and voted, we know who they are, we've talked to them on direct messages or via text, or we've met at the grocery store, what have it. How do we get them to invest their time? Because it's one thing to just pester people for donations and, okay. But how do I take that person and say, look, that guy's got some talent, that guy's fun to be around. I think that at the next Conservative Caucus summit, that guy needs to get a plane ticket and come. How do you get those people to invest their time with you guys specifically?
Well, with everything, you have to create a sense of need, however that might be. Now, the need right now that Donald Trump has been addressing, a lot of people are going to perceive that some of that has gone away. But every time new lawfare comes up, Judge Mershon and what he did just the other day, we just need to make sure he's called a felon. He could have dismissed the whole case, what the Supreme Court did. You want to show that we beat the lawfare, but we haven't extracted it. It's information. It's telling what's going on.
Whether the work is not yet done.
That's right. $34 trillion of debt. And actually, it's going to be $36 trillion very quickly from now. That in numbers and say, what does that mean for me? So if you're a 19-year-old, it's hard enough to get them to save money and that sort of thing, right? But you need to just keep the message going out. You also need to find more things that are specific to them. And this goes back to some of the data work that I talked about. You know, what Democrats have been really good at up to this point is identifying people, messaging not based on party, but based upon what people already are concerned about. They've been really good at that. Now, they've lied so much over the years. That just fell apart in a big way this last year, and what's happening in California has done that too. But that's what you got to do. Find out who they are through good data work, and then message to them based upon what they really think.
So once we get to them, and sorry, the reason that I'm walking through this is that I have actually gotten a couple of questions. It was too big of a question for mail time, and I don't feel as though I'm equipped to just answer this ex cathedra. There are a lot of people who are concerned that we're not actually raising up a strong base because the left's base is perpetuating out of pronouns and angst and that endless progressive fire for kind of a Marxian revolution. For the right, it's a leave me alone. I want to spend time with my family. I want to, time with my church. And when I think of how do I get that person involved in the movement and to treat it like a marathon, not a sprint, well, I haven't been through a ton of these sprints. I've only been through 3 presidential campaigns where I really paid attention from start to finish, 4 really. So that's kind of the question. I mean, are there any pieces for local individuals or organization people who might be listening, or just individuals who, I don't know, love politics because they're masochists? How do they get started in this kind of organization building style?
Well, keep in mind, and we were talking quite a bit about younger voters a moment ago. Everyone in the, say, 35 to 65 range is really a larger group of people than the 19 to 34-year-olds.
Right.
So that group of people can be motivated on getting active on a regular basis. We do need people to organize the church again, to hold pastors accountable, to speaking the right things. I just heard a pastor in California today was saying about what's been going on. Listen, Gavin Newsom and Democrats, they've controlled this state. They run this state. They're the reason we're going through. We need out of the pulpit from the Christian side discussion there. And by the way, that's a worthy discussion to be had.
It is. Investment in the roots where the community should be rooted, not as some kind of ethereal blob.
No, that's right. And for people who care and want to do work, they should get involved in their local party. And that's tough because there are a lot of cruddy people involved in party politics, by the way. And I've done that for many years. When I was a 24-year-old back in the 1990s, and I first got involved in politics, I did get involved in the party. I worked myself up to a vice ward chairman there in Perry Township, which I was for a period of time, having grown up in Indianapolis. You need to get involved at that level. Be a precinct committeeman. Get involved there. Find organizations that you care about. I mean, what we're doing is building out grassroots networks in state by state by state, 50 states, to help inspire those who are ready to be active, to teach them how to be active, and then to give them exciting things to do. Take on the local school board, kind of like happened in Loudoun County, Virginia, a long time ago when Glenn Youngkin got elected. Find those issues and get people involved in that. But then by the time election time comes around, because most people are not going to work elections, find out who these people are and go talk to them. It's really the boring aspect of politics. You want to spice it up with some really good information and calling out politicians like Donald Trump did, like many other Republicans do. You need to do some of that, but you also have to do this grunt work. So it's just a matter of finding people who are willing to do that. That's going to be in the 35 to 65-year-old range of people most commonly, but there'll be young people too, and then have them get involved. Last thing is, you do need to get involved on college campuses when it comes to young people. There was a real movement in the 1980s and 90s and early 2000s. Conservative organizations working hard on college campuses to organize people. Young Americans for Liberty is a great young person organization that does that right now. I used to be on the advisory board of that organization. Your college Republicans don't do it, but you do need some of that, because you get workers that are energetic young people who want to go out and help at the polls. And that's another thing to do. It's really just the basic retail grassroots politics, organized well, patient about the boringness of it, and then spicing it up with great events like TPUSA, our organization, will do, and others.
Absolutely. And to that point, I think that that's really where you make the rubber meet the road for a longer period of time, and not just a short bounce on the road whenever elections come around. Jim Pfaff, Conservative Caucus, thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Tony. Great to be with you.